Hey guys, what's up? It's Biscuit Boot Horror Reviews, and I'm here with another analysis kind of um, video essay. I guess in this case it's kind of a theory video, essentially about a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but I didn't really know how to structure it. So this is essentially a short little video essay, I guess. This is gonna be about how I personally believe the Euro horror scene affected the zombie genre in a way that is still apparent to this day. It all started with a little Pittsburgh-based film made on a wing and a prayer. When George Romero made Night of the Living Dead, he had no idea he was making history or creating what is now a concept that has been milked to death, but nonetheless he did. And I'd like to discuss something that I've noticed within the zombie genre. Today, zombies are walking, rotting corpses with various deformities, but from the late 60s till the late 70s, zombies were mostly just people in gray makeup. They didn't have any horrific deformities in Night of the Living Dead. There were a couple in Dawn, but a majority of the zombies in that film were still gray-skinned corpses, which has led me to wonder, why did it become the way it is now? Just deformed and rotted corpses and no clean, intact ones anymore. This question led me to do a bit of research, and when I say research, I mean looking at the zombie movies in my collection for about an hour and 5 minutes of Googling. The earliest film I can think of that features zombies as rotted corpses is Tombs of the Blind Dead, which the director did state it was heavily inspired by Romero's Night of the Living Dead. But these zombies are mostly skeletal, so do they count? Well, I would say they do and they don't, because they're not traditional Romero zombies, but at the same time they are corpses that eat human flesh. So it's a double-sided coin, so to speak. But this plays into what I want to talk about how European zombie films changed the genre. Now, Tombs of the Blind Dead didn't make a big splash internationally when it came out, but there is another film that did. But before I get into that film specifically, I have to talk about Romero's Dawn of the Dead, sequel to Night of the Living Dead. It was released 10 years after that film in 1978. This film went on to become one of the most iconic horror films ever made, and is still considered to be one of the best zombie films ever made. When something this successful comes out, there are always cash-ins, unofficial sequels, and rip-offs, and this is where Italy comes into play. One particular rip-off and or unofficial sequel made a particularly big splash and in and of itself has become an iconic film in the genre on its own. I'm talking about Lucio Fulci's Zombie from 1979. A film that, while I personally think isn't anything too amazing, is still a horror classic and considered by many to be on par with some of the best films in the zombie genre like Dawn of the Dead. From the mid-70s until the early 80s, there was a massive Italian zombie boom, but just like how Cannibal Holocaust takes all the credit for the cannibal boom that happened in the 70s and 80s in Italy, which was originally started by Man from Deep River, also known as Deep River Savages, Lucio Fulci's Zombie takes a lot of credit for the Italian zombie boom, which may have been started a lot earlier in '74 with Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. Something I've noticed with Lucio Fulci's Zombie is that it's one of the first traditional Romero zombie movies to have a cast of shambling corpses that is almost entirely decayed and deformed, and that would become the norm for Italian zombie movies ever since, like Zombie Holocaust or Burial Ground. With the release of this unofficial sequel to Dawn of the Dead, zombies from then on out were horribly deformed and decayed, and this allowed the makeup team to go crazy and create some really cool, iconic zombies in the future. For instance, Worm Eye, the famous poster zombie from Zombie, or Tarman from Return of the Living Dead. And I have no concrete evidence of this connection, but it would be weird if all the zombies from 1978 onward were just decayed by coincidence. So I believe after the success of Dawn of the Dead, which did very well at the box office, Lucio Fulci took note and decided to up the gore and tone down the dialogue and satire, which resulted in Zombie, often considered to be his magnum opus. That film did pretty well, and it caused waves in the international horror scene, which made zombie directors turn their heads and look. They did what Fulci did. They tried to do a cash grab and adapt to the style and gore of these movies in order to stay relevant and gain an audience. And honestly, I don't think this theory is too far-fetched. To top this theory off, the first major American zombie film that did well at the box office to feature rotting corpses was The Evil Dead in 1981, which was 2 years after Fulci's film and 3 after Dawn of the Dead. And pretty much from that point on, almost all zombie movies featured rotting corpses. And then in 1986, they went absolutely wild with the makeup effects in Day of the Dead, and that was pretty much the final nail in the coffin. And to this day, zombies are still rotted and deformed, and they pretty much all look the same now. Zombies have become a mediocrity, far away from the brilliance that spawned them in Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, and far from the creativity that revolutionized them with Lucio Fulci's Zombie and a lot of other foreign zombie films. And that is all I really wanted to talk about with this kind of analysis video essay, is how this immensely popular genre gained one of its major cliches and motifs that people often associate with it, through deduction and reasoning based on my own experience with these kinds of films. Anyway, guys, this is Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews, signing off. Peace.